Many of you out there, take this opportunity to thank you for tuning into our meetings throughout the year, and wish you all a very, very Merry Christmas and a happy 2019. Colleagues, we have got a short and sharp agenda today. I've calculated 1 hour and 10 minutes, but there is a slight chance that could deviate later on in the day, where Gerard has to speak to particular conference he attended, and it seems to be quite a comprehensive report, but we'll see how we go getting through that. Colleagues, we are all present here today except the Councillor Megan Daniels. Did she not leave absence? Is it today? Correct? No. So I think possibly she might just be running a little late. So
I think she was in General Manager of Communities Office.
So she's there, yeah. So we might just, just hold that in case she's just running late. So no apologies, councillors. Do we need any leave of absences for next year? Councillor Roll.
Yes, Madam Chair, I seek leave of absence for January the 22nd, 2019, so the first meeting of 2019, please.
Certainly. So that's definitely the 22nd.
I'll move.
Move Councillor Nixon, second Councillor Brimblecombe, all in favour? Unanimous. I should just mention the Mayor is at the Specsavers and Audiology
hearing
opening this morning, so he should come back very attuned, sharpened, sensitive, hearing sensitivities and eyesight in check. So look forward to seeing him around 9. No other leave of absences? No, rightio, that looks all good there, Councillor Roll. Confirmation of the minutes of the previous meeting, they were held on the 13th of November. It was a pretty big meeting. So can I have someone move that? Move Councillor Brimblecombe, second Councillor Roll. We'll just get you to have a quick glance through those before we put that to make sure you're absolutely happy. Any issues there, councillors? All right. All in favour? Carried. Thank you. Business of rising out of minutes. It was a very interesting meeting. That one we had the QAO performance report on local government rates and charges, forecasting long-term sustainability of local government, the asset management roadmap on GAP. That was fantastic. So yeah, it's coordination committee minutes, a couple of road closure requests, a heap of departmental updates as usual, and smattering of closed session items. Anything anyone wants to revisit there? No? All good, no business arising. Review of outstanding meeting actions. So 1 page there. Any questions in relation to any of those? No. This is going great. Review of upcoming agenda items. It's there again for your perusal. Welcome, Councillor Daniels. Nice to have you back.
Thank you.
It's a bit skinny on content. So I think we need to do some work on this. I know we say it every time, but I really think we need to. It'll be my responsibility. In the new year, Gerard, I think we'll invest some time into shaping this up into something that reflects some of our priorities for the new year. And if anyone's got anything they want to contribute, by all means, just let us know. Councillor Rock.
In time or now?
Oh, like if you haven't got it today, just outside the session even.
We could put in the general business like on that as a couple of.
Speak up, Gerard.
We can take, under general business, we can take a few requests or ideas on that or something. It's fair.
Thank you.
All right, petitions, Gerard.
No,
I think someone's going to be petitioning the use of that bow tie. Material personal interest, conflict of interest, personal gifts and benefits. Any members declare councillors? Thank goodness, that's good.
Secret Santa Claus.
No, there's conflict of interest certainly during your time. All right, moving straight into corporate services. Welcome the team into the hot seat there. Welcome Mark and everyone. Mr. Rachel.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. Good morning, councillors. The report you have before you today seeks consideration of addressing the capture of asset condition data to allow us to better program the asset management program going forward. Yesterday in the workshop forum, we talked a lot about the infrastructure backlog, what a divergent view we had from a couple of different methodologies that we had in place, and also the impacts that that has on managing the depreciation of the infrastructure assets that we carry, but also how that flow will impact the operating result and rates and charges for the council in the longer term. Today is an opportunity for us to revisit through this report the opportunity to draw some funds that we hold in reserve to advance that asset condition work. I might ask the manager and the coordinator just to highlight the detail of this report, and then we're happy to take questions, Madam Chair. Thank you, Margaret.
Thanks, Jason. Through the Chair and councillors, good morning. As Jason's referred to, this report seeks approval to fast-track progress and funding of the asset condition program by commencing asset condition inspections on other classes of assets based on risk and criticality. Council's written down value of assets is approximately 1.3 billion, and the remaining life of an asset informs the future asset renewals required, and in turn is critical in getting a view of the likelihood of a perceived infrastructure cliff in the future. In the absence of asset condition data, the remaining useful life is based on an estimate. This estimate, although benchmarked with industry's trends and standards, does not take into consideration various factors which could significantly impact on the estimated useful life of an asset, such as environmental, localised geographical location and the use of an asset. Queensland Audit Office undertook a financial sustainability review of Queensland's 77 councils. In terms of key observations of this report was many councils' lack of long-term financial forecasting capabilities, and this was considered a key risk in the future sustainability of councils. One of the reasons for the lack of this proper long-term financial forecasting was the lack of physical asset condition data or a low level confidence in asset condition. So council risks making current decisions based on the lack of long-term requirement to maintain current service levels. So why have condition of an asset? So having a clear knowledge of the condition of our assets and how they're performing leads to proper management decisions regarding maintenance, rehabilitation and renewal, as these decisions rely heavily on asset condition information. So the objectives of an asset condition assessment are identify those assets which are underperforming, predict when the asset failure is likely to occur, ascertain reasons for the asset failure and determine the corrective action, such as maintenance, rehabilitation, renewal, upgrade, etc. Additional benefits of knowing your asset condition performance are ability to plan for and manage the delivery of your future capital works program, avoidance of premature asset failure, which could lead to costly options of replacing the asset, risk management associated with asset failures and mitigation of the consequence of that failure, and efficient rehab and maintenance strategies to maximise the useful life of the asset. So this report seeks approval of $2 million to fast track the asset condition program for other asset classes proposed to utilise the future capital sustainability reserve funds. It's proposed that the asset condition for the transport network be sourced from the general reserves and the asset condition funding for water and waste come from the respective reserve funds. This will complement the existing budget of $550,000, which is progressively looking at 23% of council's wastewater gravity main assets. So the funds will be used to improve data accuracy and condition, which will then provide further information to assist in making better judgments and decisions to support future infrastructure investment across the asset classes identified. Happy to take any questions.
Anyone, anything you want to add there?
No, that's the only thing. All I'd say is, usually what asset management is, the funds are reserved for, we call it a rainy day. What asset condition actually does is tells you when that rainy day is going to be. So, in that way.
It's very well articulated. Councillors, any questions? I know we had a very good session on this yesterday, on this very topic, so it sounds like a significant investment, but when you put it in perspective in terms of the risk that this council faces for not doing this work, it's a no-brainer for me. We've just got to do this, and I was just wondering, in terms of getting the work done, do you envisage that would be done by consultants or?
Yes, Madam Chair, and we would probably similar to the NDRRA work where the work is packaged up in particular aspects according to the asset class. We'll be spend a lot of time making sure that the tender requirements and the contract specifications meet obviously our detailed data requirements, so that when the data comes back into council, it's not then reliant on us doing a hell of a lot of analytical work. We'll make sure the entire thing is done properly, so it just feeds up into our asset management systems.
Perfect. Councillor
When you consider how much the gross asset costs, so that on the graph there,
Yes.
so the first one, the road and bridge network, is so much greater than, that's the bulk of our assets, isn't it?
Yes.
So in spending $2 million on, how are you going to make sure that all other infrastructure is, I suppose, equally funded as well as, because roads and bridges are going to take a big part of it.
So, without getting into the mathematical equation, my esteemed colleague here and my coordinated strategic asset management come up with basically the what's the word for it? The data set or the sample that we get across the region, but by township would be approximately, 35% of, let's say, the network contained within each of those townships. And that, say, 35 or 40% sample, mathematically, it indicates that is a general indication of the health of that network, of that particular township. Now, that's not always, that obviously has to be validated, and the whole purpose of doing this, Councillor Rolfe, is to move away from assumptions. So we want to make sure that we do it based on hierarchy, criticality and risk. And I know I keep saying that ad nauseum, but that's the best way for us to target the assets that are most, well, that are a hierarchy within all of our network. And obviously we need to look at our known current condition, if we have any known current condition. We look at also defect data, CRMs. We do a whole lot of analysis and provide that information to the contractors who will be performing that work.
Just maybe to explain that $1 billion of road transport infrastructure is $1 billion of the rest doesn't mean it's going to be $1 million spent on condition. So the roads are much easier to assess, do a condition assessment. So I think there will be significant road investment in the subterranean, to use those words, asset condition work.
And I think, without going into the mathematical part of it, but I think our communities need to understand this as well. Not
Right.
The overall, because you then go, well, if it's 35%, if it's divided up 35%, you've got to say that the southern part of our region has got the highest percentage of roads and of infrastructure, and that needs assessment, you know, is, you've got to be able to say, well, this is the fairest way of doing it. That's my concern.
Through the chair, if I can just respond to councillor off. So whilst I threw out that percentage of the sample, 35–40%, again, we go back to, we would look at each area based on the hierarchy, roads of regional significance, and all of the hierarchy is the most important trigger for then us to determine what that sample would be. And then the criticality of that particular network, piece of the network, that being water and sewage as well as the road, the transport network. And then also where we believe if it failed, what would pose the greatest risk to service levels for that community. So that's the, I suppose, the triage of thinking of how we would identify what would need to be in that inspection program.
Not questioning so much as just teasing out what is public.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Bradshaw.
Make a couple of comments as well. Councillor Robb, I think what you highlight is quite an important piece for us to understand as well, because in relation to the roading assets right across the region, you need to understand the geography and what's underneath all of those particular roads. So the sample set that we seek to identify will be across all of those geographic conditions that we have in the region. So we'll know a particular area, the roads were built around, you know, this particular formation, and this is the material involved. So there'll be different pockets of the region that allow us to identify and, I suppose, specialise how we undertake the condition evaluation of those particular assets. And I think for us, it's not just the assets of water and sewer that we can't see. There's probably building assets that are nearing the end of their useful lives that we need to make some real value judgments around. So outside of roads being the biggest asset class, it's probably the most simplest for us to do the condition rating around, because the science is well advanced in that area as well. So, you know, we're not creating any new ground here, we're just finding an opportunity to use the latest science to get the best information available for decision making. The purpose of this report today is really to gain that in principle support to allocate the funds. So it's not a specific value, we've estimated based on our knowledge of the network that an additional $2 million is required. As the scope of those works is generated across each of the asset classes, and as Margaret articulated previously, we define what our asset data requirements are. That'll allow us to scope the work much cleaner. So as we come back to Council's budget review 2 in the first part of February 2019, there'll be a much more precise number associated with what comes forward in terms of the final budget information. But again, the variability of that will be dependent upon our knowledge of the data that we have at the moment. And there'll be areas where we know more, so we'll need less effort in this particular space, and areas where we're quite vague, for want of a better term, and then we'll need to sort of drill further into that, and that's been articulated in how we put the data capture together. So there's a whole range of important variables that we need to recognise as we go about this work today. Is about seeking Council's commitment for that investment, from funds that we hold in reserve to allow us to better manage the assets and infrastructure that we currently have in place to service the communities right across the region.
Well articulated, Mr. Bradshaw. Thank you very much, Marg in the room. Council, any other questions in relation to this? I think there's probably not too much more to add in relation to the conversation, but any other questions?
I'll move.
Yep, move Councillor. Second, Councillor Daniel, she's back and she's on fire, she's lively in the seat. And all in favour? Yes. Yes, and Council's that recommendation is that the Central Highlands Regional Council approve in principle funding of an additional $2 million for the completion of the asset condition data capture program across all infrastructure assets to be funded from Council's Capital Works Reserve. And can I say I am so excited by that recommendation, because I think this is one of the most important pieces of work that will be undertaken in 2019, and I honestly commend you guys on the work you've done, and and as I said, this is an important body of work that will really position Council well in terms of its financial sustainability in the future. So thanks very much.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you very much.
Yeah, is that, no, that's it for this year, isn't it? For finance and infrastructure.
Yes.
Thank you very much for your enthusiasm at our meetings and, yeah, all the best to you both.
All right, thank you.
Now, moving right along, infrastructure and utilities, permanent road closure of a section of Barlow Road. Mr. Jabot.
Through the chair, councillors, this application has come through from DNR and MNE, Department of Natural Resources, Mines and Energy. Was it involved? Apologies, I should have done that. What we have before us is two matters. Number one, they've advised us that the own stock route management group has indicated I wouldn't say unwillingness, but basically objecting, the stock management group is objecting to the closure of this road. We initially thought there's semblance of access to lot. If you go to attachment 1 and you look at the lot reference, initially we thought there's semblance of lot 12 on SP 185512. Not technically correct. We could possibly, if you look at the complete parcel, the land parcel of lot 12, which isn't visible on this map that we've attached, unfortunately, there's about 20 kilometers south, there's access through Humboldt Road. That's not the complete story. All that land holding, I believe, if I refer to my managing infrastructure, is in the hands of BMA. We put a layer, just this morning, put a layer of mining leases over the top, and I've just emailed councillors a PDF extract. There's a couple of mining leases over the top of this, over the top of that road closure as well, which will have access to it. So really, I don't think we're intending to recommend otherwise that we won't support the road closure and build accordingly advise Department of Natural Resources, Mines and Energy the same. So really that's where we're going with this one. Is there any specific questions?
Yeah. Councillor, looking at this map, Gerard, there's your mining leases in red, is it?
Yes, the outline is the red, the yellow is lot 12.
So the yellow is?
Lot 12 is all the yellow sub-parcels, if I can call it, so that's lot 12.
Yellow is the mining claims, it says.
No, yellow is the lot 12, the red is the mining leases.
Okay, so let's go back to. There's the road on this. So on the first map that we've got in our report, the green line and then goes the yellow line, which was, what does that say?
The applicant had effectively two applications, which it's not clear from the information provided what the two mean. One was a part closure, and the other one was a full closure. In terms of the report, the green, the highlighted green is to reduce width from 10 chain to 3 chain. And permanent closure is the orange. So he intended, or the applicant intended to seek effectively just part closure of the first section and then a complete closure of the second. So really, if you look at everything in context, having lot 12 as per the yellow outline of the PDF we sent everybody a few minutes ago, there is access via Humboldt, which is right at the bottom. There's a little where the north-south vertical boundary on the western side kicks away. That's Humboldt going in there, I believe. And the gist of it is we still have a couple of mining leases tucked in the back of Barlow Road, which will potentially require access. So we're just saying that we should not support this application, and I think there's enough grounds to, although we can't see where the stock price is going, if the department themselves already object to it, I don't see any grounds why we would do otherwise. If the property owner does come back to the department and us and indicate otherwise, we will obviously facilitate that conversation as we've done in various other occasions. But from a policy point of view, I don't believe there's enough evidence to suggest we should support that proposal.
Not a lot of detail as to why.
They never give us the reason, and we don't have the time. The time when I had to respond to this, we just don't have the time to contact the property owner and find out all context around the why. And again, I don't believe it's our task to facilitate road closures. We're happy to work with the department, and we have in many cases, but this is not our core business to to facilitate road closures on behalf of property owners. We will work with the department and property owners to resolve matters as they come to the front.
So all we're asking is to object to the application of permanent road closure.
Yes.
So what happens when they come back and ask for the bottom line that says, does however support temporary closure?
Temporary closures is for grazing purposes. That can be revoked. That can be revoked any time in future. So we do support that they keep on grazing over it, but that can be done under a road license or temporary closure. So we don't object to that. We don't intend pushing the road through that way.
So really, he's only wanting to close the stop route that kind of goes straight through his property.
Correct.
Cuts it
One
in half.
part, and he wants to narrow, which is a strange outcome, to narrow one section to one, which is, you either close it completely or you don't. It's a strange to narrow it down. Doesn't indicate anything about infrastructure being in that space or anything. So again,
Yeah, well, I guess it's just, taken from 10 chain to 3 chains just for benefit to himself to graze his property and maybe fence it or something later on. But the Barlow's Road that actually goes to that property corner there, is that a gazetted road? Where you've got Barlow's Road written in, because Virginia Shire used to maintain that road, and it was that goes along the boundary of the old Emerald Virginia Shire, and I didn't think that it was ever gazetted. I thought that the gazetted one was actually that stop route, but we just graded that to give him an access. Kerry may remember. So is there a gazetted road there?
There is a gazetted road reserve, but the road might not be in the road reserve. That's my view as well.
Yeah. I think it was a convenience road. But
further to the south, there was already a closure. If you look at attachment 2, and you'll see that we've already, council has already granted a closure on that diagonal from the southwest to the northeast. That we granted recently, and the stop right was realigned to go up.
That's right. Yeah.
Councillors, any other questions in relation to that? The recommendation is there. Just come back. Someone happy to move it? New Councillor Ross, second Councillor Greencomb, all in favour? Unanimously supported. Thank you, colleagues. Thank you, Mr. Jabotai. Departmental updates. Customer and Commercial Services, Michelle Webster. Last one for 2019.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just grab the right report. Morning, councillors. I'm not sure whether the airport manager might like to pop down and speak to the airport.
Solomon, come down. We love having you in the chambers. And he's even.
So while he's taking his seat, hopefully Councillor Daniels might have noticed within the report that we have all things come to those who wait, and provided some family-friendly parking spots at the airport. So sorry for the delays, but they're eventually there. So Solomon, will just have you speak to the airport. Thank you.
Okay. I'll take the report as read. In short, thank you very much. In short, the airport is busy changing, I guess, internally and in its processes and its procedures, as well as the things that we can see. We have implemented a number of easy to recognise items, such as the mummy bays, they are called, I believe. We also increased a number of the disabled bay parking. We've also moved some of them. We noticed that during most people like to smoke in the morning and the wind comes from a certain direction. So the previous bays were actually downwind from the smoke, which was where one or two of the weeks of delay came in, but we had to wait for people to clear out other parking so we could go around and remark them. So from that point of view, those are the easier to see things. We've also done a lot of behind the scene things, such as on the airfield, a lot of painting has gone on, a lot of small works in preparation of our large works, but also we're actually, as we speak, busy being audited by CASA. So they are camping out there by us in the week, doing day and nights inspections, looking at not only what we do, what the place looks like, but also go back into our records to make sure that we can evidence the things that we are supposed to do. So that's a lot of work that's happening in the background. From a capital project point of view, of course, we have to run a reconstruction project, and that is going, we're in the kick-off phase. Surveying is starting actually on the weekend. We're going to have 7 days of night works on surveying. We are getting a number of smaller, I guess, earthworks moving in anticipation of that. So that will not only keep the staff busy, but also make it easier down the track. The Shire, I must say, has been very proactive in the way that it's been dealing with projects. Obviously, there's a big pipeline, and these are all important things. So to be proactive is really good. So well done to everyone there. A lot of planning in the beginning makes it easier towards the end. There was a point that I just wanted to raise in, it's marked here as non-conformances. So in there I noted that CASA will come and do the inspection, and that's actually happening now. When we have daily inspections and we have more detailed inspections as time goes on by higher and senior individuals. We have over the last couple of months made, I guess I could call them deep dives into a number of the airport processes and procedures, as I said earlier, and the infrastructure, and we're looking to bring those back up to, I guess, a way in which it would be easier to maintain the airport in future. And what that will do is it will save time and money going forward, but currently we have to do the hard yards on those. So that project, I guess, is nearing towards the end. We've got 2 small projects going, and that will see the airport, I guess, shiny and new as one could expect infrastructure of that age. From a business point of view, the numbers, as you guys know, the numbers have bottomed out. It does not seem as if they are going down anymore. For a couple of quarters now, the numbers have been stable. So that is important because that means it gives us a bit of certainty as to the income stream of the airport. Therefore, when we talk expenses and capital to you guys, it means that the base that's going to fund that seems to be stable now. So the quality of decision making we can do now is much higher than perhaps it would have been in the past. Happy to take any specific questions or...
Just through the chair, your comment there, how we've plateaued out. That's an assumption, I guess, because with the prices to fly out of here going this way, surely those numbers are going to go that way. I'm just worried about that, and is there any possibility that we could, and I know we always invite Qantas representative to our meetings, but I just wonder whether we should try and talk to them and say that that is having a dramatic impact on the numbers going through our airport, Because I think it is going to impact further because of the price rises that are happening right now. So, and just in discussion last night there, the prices that people are paying to fly out of Emerald are really outrageous.
Yeah. Yes, I guess there's two questions in there. The first one is that the Qantas prices are seasonal. So in fact, we were just having or looking at the actual numbers yesterday. So what Qantas does, of course, when everyone wants to try to make it more expensive. So we can actually see that, and I'll speak from memory if I'm allowed to. Say, if as an example, on a normal month, we have, say, 23,000 passengers or so going through the airport. Around Christmas time, when Qantas and Virgin, we shouldn't single them out, increase the price, we can see that's numbers set fall by 3,000 to 5,000 so per month. So the assumption or the point Council is making is a very valid one. There is a direct link between the prices paid and how many people, there's a different link in that elasticity there. Qantas and Virgin, however, are not stupid, and they need to keep the aircraft full. So because we know that the average cost of running the aircraft are much lower than the cost that they are charging for legs such as Brisbane to Emerald, there's a lot of fat in there. So we know that in the skinny months, they have the ability to drop the prices, and that's what they do, and then the numbers back up. You guys would all know that you can buy 120 bucks Melbourne to Sydney, which is further. So that gives you an idea of how much fat there is in the system. So the point is well made. I suspect that Qantas as an international commercial entity are unlikely to take much notice in their dividend payment strategy as to with respect, smaller users of their services. In fact, there was a WA parliamentary inquiry last year, it was, and that came out very negatively, making the same points and referring it higher up the chain, using words such as misuse of market power as an example. Qantas, as an example, just before the day or two before the report came out, we came out with a marketing stunt where they said, if you guys write off all our fees at the airports, then we will give your community 30% off. Now, fees of the ticket prices probably only 5 to 6%. So that shows you how the mechanics inside the price. So first point I'd like to make is, yes, the council is 100% correct. Second of all, Qantas and Virgin are unlike as commercial entities to let the situation deteriorate to the point where they stop making money. So there's at least a self-equalising effect in there. And the third point being that discussion is good, and we're always in discussion with them. And we're likely to be in discussion with them again in the next few months when we have to redo our fee modelling for going forward. However, getting our hopes up, I suspect, on getting a company such as Qantas to go. We apologise.
Yes, I think council taking your comment on board, Janine, we have had a strong relationship with the airlines, and I think, Janine, as Solomon rightly points out, Janine, we're dealing with very large companies here. However, the relationship is important.
Yes.
And I think a conversation in regards to the amount of money we're about to put into our airport, into that infrastructure, it's important to remind them of that and have that conversation at the very least.
It can't hurt, and I think that they need to be aware that how much it's costing us on our side, and I take your point that they'll come back and tell us to lower our charges. They've done that quite often before, so we're familiar with that. But really, I think that surely it's better for them to fly out a full plane load of people and have half a load So I just think that, you know, for their own business, you think that they would be able to talk turkey to us a little bit.
So, sorry, do we keep any sort of records, or do we capture that data around pricing at all and the price patterns?
No, we don't. These in terms of ICAO, our responsibilities with regards to the Australian Convention with the UN, Australia had to create a government organisation. It's known as BITRE, and their job is actually to do that. BITRE has a very difficult time in doing that because, of course, each time you go online and you buy a ticket, or you just look at the ticket price, the price has moved a little because it tracks, oh, this person is really interested. So I guess we don't have the ability to track what people on Qantas's website or Virgin's website for that matter buys tickets at. The government has a responsibility to provide agency, and that is proven very difficult. So it would probably take up a lot of resources, and we would not. The quality of the data would not be very high, unfortunately.
So is that data that is captured by that agency accessible by managers of regional airports, or?
So that data, yeah, so we can look at that data. They de-identify the data, and they bring out reports from time to time saying the inflation in airfares are up or down.
Yeah.
The problem is it's de-identified to the point where it's actually lesser use, especially to smaller ports such as ours. You would certainly in Melbourne, Brisbane, they would do where the cheap fares are. Those routes are some of the most heavily used in the world, and you know that you can fly $80 from Brisbane to Sydney. So the price weighting is on the mass city-to-city legs, meaning that for us it bears almost no resemblance to what you pay. You know, the person on the news will go, airfares are just going down every year. When you go to buy one, you would go, really? So.
It's all around the data, Chair, as well. And also, you start to wonder about airports like ours subsidising those others that are as small as us, that are being subsidised during community, whatever they call it.
Yeah, they do from Mount Isa in the west.
Yeah, from west. So I think that we, instead of just coming to the end of the year when we know that the prices are going to get dearer, put our thoughts forward and do a bit of research on it before that happens, because we know it happens every year.
Yes.
We don't have the data to say exactly what it is, but you know, certainly this time of the year it's far cheaper to drive to Rocky, put your car in the car park and go out and fly to wherever. So, and that's a sad thing because it's not used of our community facilities. So, yeah, I think we need to up the ante a bit on protesting earlier, or making some noise, and also I'd say making some noise also to those Western County. No, not making noise to them, but about the fact that the Rapid Shires have actually done something about their community affairs.
See, what's curious, Solomon, is like, why is Emerald so much dearer than Rockhampton at the same time of the year? You know, they're both considered regional airports. So, you know, it just seems crazy that, you know, Emerald seems to be copping a flogging on pricing. And, you know, and it's not an uncommon story, you know, at this time of the year there are people, and myself included, that are driving to Rocky to catch planes and put family on planes. It's too expensive.
Yes, I suspect that it's probably at the bottom of it the same mechanics as most shops that sell milk for $1 close at $5. Then there's some of the shops that sell milk at like $2 a litre, they close at about $7. And if you run out of milk at 11:45, you know, you better take a $5. So I suspect that the answer is they do it because they can. They may, if let's say, if the cost of getting you to Brisbane is going to cost them $100, they may be happy to have 15 seats empty to rather sell a ticket at, say, $700 than at $120, because they're going to make, what's it, 20 times 7 or whatever the number is. They'll make 20 seats worth of marginal cost, incremental profit on that one seat. So they are happy to run at 50-60% capacity. In fact, I come from a port where they perfect, where they made the most money was if they ran about 48-49%, where on a capital city leg, the average for airlines in the world is just more than 80, about 82%, so where they make the most money. On some of our capital city routes, that is more than 90%. As the price drops, it takes more bodies to pay for the plane before you start paying for yourself. So you may very well end up on a plane and there's only a few people in there, lots of empty seats. And the mechanics of it behind the scenes is they actually make more money on those flights because they priced it just right, rather than having what they call breakage or overflow, because once you lose a passenger. The other reality is also very few people, because of course we think of the community in this hall. However, there's a lot of industry there that makes up the bulk of the flight numbers, and those guys are not price sensitive. They fly on the actual how late and the schedule. So that's how they fly. When you fly for business, you need your shift starts at 6 or 8. You fly to be just before the time. So not a lot of the decisions are being made on money, where of course private individuals decide on money. So there's two or three different markets flying out of Emerald. Only the very small one is actually sensitive to the actual cost of a flight.
I think also, Madam Chair, as John, the comparison of Rockhampton and Emerald, passenger numbers far exceed Rockhampton. So, it's volumes of passengers, isn't it? That's all that explains, contributes to the prices are set. And nothing stops us having a conversation, reinforcing the money we are putting into the infrastructure and this council deliberately, we've held prices on hold for the airlines. So, their messages we need to keep reinforcing with. We're doing our part, so.
But it's very curious, and like you say, Solomon, the smaller percentage of travellers are the ones that react to price, like around, and they're sensitive to price, yeah. So, but they're the ones that are, when you sit on a plane, pull out their in-flight magazine, talks about all these wonderful regional communities all around Australia that you love to visit. But the people that they really are targeting are the people like us that are sensitive to price. Yeah.
I think that has something to do with brand. The reason why most people, and it would probably be inappropriate to ask for a show of hands down to the Qantas website first, is brand. So a lot of the Qantas communication is about we fly because of you. So when you fly Qantas, you think, a stockman and his floppy hat. These are the true blue. And it's not, there's a corporate money-making machine at the back, and I know we talk about Qantas now, and we should probably split that a bit wider. But the point is that the in-flight magazine and the marketing material sells a feeling to you. They sell the feeling to you. It's not based on price. None of the marketing has a price in it. So they try and what you buy, when you go on to guess which website you first check for flights, why do you do that? It's not because of price. It's because they sold you the feeling of going on to it. And that is what marketing is, and some companies are extremely good at it.
Very interesting. Thank you, Solomon. As always, very insightful.
I was going to ask the disaster
APDs and emergency management exercise.
Yes. Have you got another one planned?
Yes, we must have an emergency management exercise every 2 years. We've now missed this one. CASA has noted it. We worked with them to explain to them that it was not fulfilled on our part. They've accepted that. We are planning one for April next year when it's a little bit cooler, when there's in the diary of the SES and the fireys when there's less on. I think what we'll do in future is we will probably try to not stretch it to the maximum again, so we overflow. So maybe what we do is we do it in conjunction with some of the other emergency things happening around the region. The airport in the past have, or I suspect that we can probably fit in better in working with the emergency services around us than falling into their rhythm. So yes, we will next year, April. We don't have a date yet and we haven't spoken to anyone about it yet, but yes, we will.
Thank you, Solomon.
Thank you. Continuing on, councillors, I'll take the report as read. Sale yard numbers continue to be steady in regards to their, I think last sale was about 2,850 odd heads, so numbers are still good. We'll wait and see into the new year what the conditions are. We did hold our annual barbecue breakfast last week, and again, we've got good numbers attending that, and I think that's really appreciated. It is an event for buyers and vendors of the sale yards, and that seems to be received really well, having those barbecues. Second last sale of the year, so that's a good activity. Capital projects have progressed well. We are waiting though in regards to the outcomes of building our region's funding for the dump ramp, hay storage and holding yards. We have had some issues with the new draft facility, and they've had ProWay on site fixing that for a number of days. I'm hoping that that's probably back up and operational now or by the end of this week, but when in operation, providing great efficiency, as well as the additional new 28 selling pins that have been established as well, continue to increase not only worker safety, but also animal welfare, contributed greatly at the facility. Any questions in regards to sale yards, councillors?
Just one through the chair. When you're building regions funding, when are we likely to hear?
I'm not sure, councillor.
So we haven't got any guidelines on it?
No, they generally don't give us the date of you know, when we will be advised, but I would hope it wouldn't be too far along. I'm not sure, Gerard, whether you have any details at all.
I'm not sure.
No, but we can chase that up to get an indicative time frame, councillor.
It would be nice to know if it's going to happen in this financial year or not.
Oh, it should be in this financial year, certainly.
Okay.
They've been in now for a number of months, so.
Be nice Christmas present, wouldn't it?
Wouldn't it be great?
Chair, can I just mention the other day at the breakfast as well was a visit by Rachel O'Brien, who's representing Animal Health Australia, about biosecurity. And it's, we have our stakeholder meeting in the middle of the year, and both Michelle and I suggested to her that we'd invite her along to speak to that. It's not about actually council doing biosecurity. It's about getting it out there into the community and landholders and cattle owners or livestock owners about having biosecurity plans. And she comes from Longreach, so she's in our midst, I'd say.
Yeah, top girl, Rachel, and had a bit to do with her at times, so a good initiative.
Yeah, so that'll be something coming up in middle of next year.
I know she's always eager to get out and about the regions, so very good.
Thank you. Quarry, slow month, only 6,909 6,900 tonnes sold up to the 28th of November, although the forecast tonnes for this financial year are well ahead of budget at 66,610 tonnes. Last year at the same time, that's compared to 18,432 tonnes, so small team. At the quarry continue to do a great job. We continue to support our infrastructure colleagues and two mobile crushing campaigns have been completed at Serracold Pit and Riverside Pit. We've had company in cleaning up some of the scrap metal at the Shepton Quarry site as well. And we are advised that we will have a compliance inspection from the department in December. We will also use that opportunity to discuss our designs for the pre-coat area with the staff when they're on site, to make sure we're getting them into the loop and on board for the potential moving forward of that work. The capital projects have been moving well at the quarry, with the pug mill now ready for operations. There's some photos in the report there for you, Council. That provides us to, provide additional product from the quarry. They're actively out trying to seek some custom in that regard. Bus tie, the final electrification of that work will occur over the Christmas break. And that's probably all for quarry. If councillors have any questions in that regard. No. Moving on, property services. I'm very pleased to have Stephen Williams on board, who's in the public gallery today. He's met most of the councillors, but we'll introduce you, Councillor Daniels, after the meeting. Stephen brings great skills, knowledge and experience to the department and to council in regards to the property portfolio. So it's a fairly new team there, but they're getting on and kicking some goals. There's plenty of work to do, so that is good. I know Councillor Nixon previously you've asked in regards to the Telstra lease at Doringa. We are experiencing some issues there. We have referred that, I think the last advice I gave you was that we had referred that to our legal people. There are extensive rewrites that Telstra have come back with, even to the extent that we will pay the legal costs. So there is a need to engage with Telstra and talk about their proposed amendments to that lease. So that will continue to go on. We also, we have a meeting actually this week in regards to progressing the expression of interest for adjustments of vacant land from council. We have written to all people who expressed an interest to advise them that we're still working on the project and we're delayed in that regard, but keeping them in the loop that we haven't finalised the matter. So there are a number of issues that we need to work through, so we will continue to do that work. So happy to answer any questions, Councillor. That's probably all the high points I would touch on today.
Thank you, Michelle. Otherwise, Council, any other questions in relation to the report? Company's report. Oh, sorry. Well done, everyone's eager today. So the recommendation is that it's moved Councillor Rolfe, seconded Councillor Nixon. All in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you very much, Michelle. Moving on to infrastructure and utilities. Councillors, strap yourselves in. On the back of Scott Mason's very thorough and comprehensive report on the LGAQ State Conference, I think somebody in the team has decided that he didn't want to be outdone on the reporting. So the high point in this section, I'm guessing, will be Gerard leading us through the Alice Springs roads. But before that, I'll hand over to you, Gerard, to introduce your teams.
Thank you, Madam Chair and councillors. The first report I want to just reaffirm, we did put this through council. We did have a bit of media coverage on Queensland Fire Emergency Services Minister Craig Crawford's visit. I think certain councillors in the room did meet up, but just a snapshot in that report of the amount of money we've invested in facilities jointly with QFIS to get each one of our various townships up to up to a position where they have great facilities and can provide a great volunteer emergency service and support to the community. So there's been significant investment, and as I said, I deem that as great, but that has had pretty good media attention when he came through on his visit. Next up is managing infrastructure. Please, Jason, take it away.
Yeah, through the chair. Firstly, I'll apologise for the lack of detail in the infrastructure section. At the close of the agenda, we were in LDCC mode, so I didn't get a lot of reports done. So basically, the only one that did make the cut was the capital report. There's a bit of an update there. We have 4 crews currently working on NDRA packages of day labour and hybrid work there. We're ahead of time. We've actually brought some of the programmed work from next year into this year in the south to keep them going and to try and get as much done as we could before the break. Bonnie Doon Road has commenced. That is to facilitate the secret or the Yamala development. So roadworks have started there. There's a number of other little projects which are mentioned in the report, but ongoing, and basically with regard to capital, we are on track as per program.
Good news, and Jason, you are forgiven in relation to the reasons behind the shorter reporting. I think everyone would agree, yourself and those involved in communicating directly with our community around some of the preventative works and the works that were applied for fire management was very much appreciated, and had some great feedback about the work you're doing out there. So thank you very much for that. We very much appreciate it. Councillors, any questions for Jason in relation to that capital report?
And then over to Peter for an update on water utilities.
Okay, morning councillors, through the chair. First 3 things this month. So the Central Queensland Trade Waste Interest Group, so CQ TWIG, was formed last year. Nathan and I went to the first meeting last year. The aim had been to try and do meetings twice a year, but struggled with interest, so it's probably going to be an annual meeting. So it's just been an opportunity for the CQ councils to get together, share experiences, share knowledge, and we'll be feeding that into the development of our new policy in the earlier half of next year. The Water Skills Partnership for the Queensland Water Directive, I attended that meeting in November, and it was mainly the topics covered are about staff training, discussions on how a lot of us have shortages in operators, things that other people have looked at to sort of multi-skill their staff or find different ways to attract trainees and other staff. Just the graph that was included in there was the Water Services Association of Australia had a workshop on essentially workforce shortages across the country. It had been focused sort of mainly on sort of engineers and that sort of stuff, but the learnings were sort of brought back to Queensland for sort of operators. But that is showing that, particularly in the transport area, there's a huge swell of capital works that we're competing against other sectors for in the near future. And just the last one's a plug for thanks to Jason's infrastructure team in Capella, who've done the clearing of the channel to the harvest pump, and maintenance has been done on that pump. So when we get some rain, we'll be able to harvest.
We're ready. Thanks, Peter. Any questions for Peter? No, councillors. That brings us to this mammoth report here of Sherrard. I hope the batteries last on the bow tie to get through.
We hope so as well, Chair. Councillors, the 2019 National Roads and Transport Congress took place in Alice Springs between 20 and 22 November. We had Mayor Kerry Hayes, Councillor Gomez, and Christine Rolfe and myself attend. I'll try and give the highlights, but I'll also focus on the key issues that I personally took value out of and probably would see council benefit from seeing how we can progress. The ALGO president, David O'Loughlin, opened up the conference, and effectively they are still spruiking the gains. The FAGS indexation fees that was lifted, he also picked up on the task force to develop a better framework with regards to asset resilience and getting an increase in funding in that space. The CEO did launch this document, All Politics is Local. Just to give context, that roads generally always trumps everything else. 5 of the 12 initiatives in here relate to transport and infrastructure priorities. So I presume all the councils did get access to a copy of that after Mr. Mason's visit to the LGAQ conference. So yes, roads always trumps the conversation. 75%, more than 75% of Australia's 662,000 kilometre road network with more than 180 billion is local government. Our transport road priorities, road safety was one of the key themes at the Congress. Obviously a lot around reform in the heavy industry, heavy vehicle industry again, and also conversations about technology. Under road safety, unfortunately, our statistics are not good. Again, you'll see I'll quote various statistics throughout the reports. I probably didn't spend enough time trying to reconcile everybody's statistics to see if they all said talking with the same hymn sheet, but in case David's reference was 1,200 fatalities per year, and 480 of those is on local roads. Effectively 66% fatalities occur in regional Australia, which is again reference to our local roads. We had a podcast from the Honourable Member Anthony Albanese, Shadow Minister for Infrastructure, which is interesting. He didn't turn up, but he sent his video. And a very interesting conversation about how Tasmania is doing business. Alan Garcia, CEO of Infrastructure Tasmania, gave us a couple of high points of how they're going about sustaining economic growth of about 7%, having a massive demand on hotels and motels with occupancy levels sitting at about 74%. The state government did a major piece of work to develop an infrastructure pipeline collectively across all tiers of government, 8 billion over 10 years. So Little Island is really leading the way in being able to focus at all levels of government, focus the infrastructure spend and investment in a very concerted and planned way. Couple of things, they're pushing obviously transport visions of getting 10% of people onto public transport. In Hobart alone, in education they're focusing on STEM, and also a big topic is, given the occupancy rates and the impact of Airbnb, they also talk about affordable housing. Hobart City Deal, we've heard a few of these bandied around. They're working on a land system, law system, city deal as well currently. A very interesting concept. To take away from that is lining up all your ducks about how you want to develop that city into the future. Right, then road safety, I'll immediately dive headlong into it. We had Professor Narelle Harwood Director of Centre for Accident Research and Road Safety Queensland, as our first speaker. Basically, interesting conversation about it's time to stop counting the dead, which sounds a bit bad, but she was trying to emphasize the fact that yes, we're all looking at fatalities, but look at the cost of serious injuries. Is effectively a much bigger issue than, and again, it sounds a bit fatalistic, but I think it's a strong message, and then she went into the data, and it's all shown there in graphs that I've included by charts, is that yes, there is significantly more people injured, and the interesting fact is that the vulnerable groups make up a hell of a big slice of the pie. Which means that your cyclists, motorcyclists, pedestrians are not always accounted for as being a key risk group. And the other stat, which is very interesting, is the difference in speed, environment, and the resulting statistics, the difference between 60 and 100 kilometers. It's virtually inverse in terms of your fatalities and hospitalizations. Fatal 5. Picked up just a reference there, scrolling further down. So really, we can't deny that local government has a big role to play in taking this challenge head on. David Bowman from Austroads, interesting presentation about obviously the work that they're doing in the background on design and management of road networks and the services they offered. So it was a bit of a plug for Austroads and their services and what they're doing in that space. I know automobile vehicles always come up at every single conference. In this case, again, interesting conversation. There's a reference to guard parity by 2020. 25, and a reference to Tony Seba on YouTube if councils want to entertain themselves afterwards. Apparently, guard parity is when your electric vehicle and your house with its battery system, etc., is all integrated, and it doesn't matter where your power source is from, that when you plug in and play business everywhere, it is just one fully integrated battery powered electric system. So apparently that's got parity. I'll try and use that in a conversation over a few drinks over Christmas to see if anybody plays this out or knows that's what I'm talking about. An initiative that really struck home in a more personal way was SARA, the Safer Australian Roads and Highways non-profit. Peter Fraser, very emotive, lost his daughter, did a very powerful presentation, but it's really emphasising the importance of road safety, yes, but just simply flagging that Yellow Ribbon Week in April next year, is it April? I think, yeah, May next year. Road Safety Week, we will put on a bit of a concerted effort up here to see how we can support it.
Just on that, Chair, can we emphasise also not only road safety, but it's actually road construction of roads, because
That was more to
that
the point.
accident was actually on a piece of road that she had nowhere to get off.
Another point, Councillor Rolfe, it was raised that effectively the design of the highway did not permit vehicles to pull off. There wasn't enough shoulder. And ironically, this conversation steered us straight to the Toowoomba Second Range crossing, where they say the current design consortium, again, apparently is not designing to desirable standards, but to absolute minimum. So effectively, they're creating a legacy that on the Second Range crossing there won't be the ability for vehicles to pull off the road, which is not good. But in any case, that came up in conversation. So very, very interesting question is whether agencies, be it government, are taking a strong enough position on design standards, or are they willing to make the dollars stretch as far as possible and get the minimum design outcome instead of desirable. So that was a valid point made, but again, that is, if we looking at our local roads are not essentially being fit for purpose, which is marginally just desirable. I don't think we'll be able to afford to have sealed shoulders, but we have at least got batters, try and grab batters that people can pull off quite well. So emphasis on road safety and our involvement, whether we're going to have yellow lights down Edgerton Street, Rudy, I don't know if your boards are keen to combine another set of lights. We've got purple lights, we've got red lights. I think we could probably do yellow as well. But yeah, there's just an idea. Recycling, the circular economy, we heard about it yesterday. Very interesting topic out of inner city Melbourne. Well, I say inner city, inner Melbourne with New City. Yes, I take on board that one can I've jumped through there, sorry, I jumped a few topics, but it's fine. The rest is the trend. Using recycled plastic and recycled rubber to do their asphalt, yes, there's a slight price penalty, given that you're in an urban setting, I can understand that works. The question about using ground rubber and the likes in remote areas such as that, we are still looking, I'm looking over at Jason there, we are still looking at getting somebody up to present to council on the technology. So again, great technology, great idea that they use glass, recycled glass to replace sand, use plastic to add as an additive, use rubber to give greater fatigue resistance to your asphalt. So all those positives, how it works up here, we'd like to figure out.
Can I please add, Chair, the quick facts there. What happens with tyres? Currently import more crumb rubber than produced locally. So I want us to all consider how many tyres we've got in this region, and it's currently it's cheaper to import. Also, it's cheaper to import bottles from Mexico than recycling. We really want to think about this.
Very strong point, Councillor Rolfe, and the tyre conversation, that's one of my big takeaways, and it just segues me perfectly into the Tyre Stewardship Australia presentation. I will contact the guy early in the new year and have a chat. Great Britain had a beautiful throwaway line, which I think has possibly got value under the rapid/regional plans. What if we look at collectively setting up a plant, recycling all the tyres out west that just get dumped free of charge in our waste facilities? I don't know the numbers, a couple of figures bandied around, 10 million for a plant. Not viable on the coast, doesn't make sense, but again, we'll have to look at it. Maybe there's a commodity in there, export market to the big cities, who knows? But it will be interesting little exercise to see what's the feasibility. When I was out in Winton, trucks pulled through town and dumped tyres on the way from Mount Isa to wherever, or from Curry, who knows? So if regional councils suddenly find that they have got a product that can generate added value and add to the circular economy in return on an investment, who knows? But again, I don't know the numbers, it's great territory, but what do we do about it? Maybe there's something in it. I'll move on. We need to get through it. National State of Asset Report was the one I skimmed over. I think Margaret Gadd is probably more interested in it, and I think we are proactively doing something in that space, so we don't have to read about the rest of the country and new roads. Planes and trains, I'm not going to comment on that because I know that anything to do with aeroplanes and airports is in the hands of Michelle Solomon, so he went to the AAA conference, so he can touch on that when he provides feedback. But we did have a classic there with our mates up at CL, Alice Springs Airport, Batik. who reckons they've got the largest airport in Australia by landmass, but I guess we'll park that aside. I know you've got your views, but in any case, yeah, so there's always a bit of showboating, but they do interesting stuff. They store aircraft, they do the longest runway dinner. They're also spruiking their Queen of the Desert Festival next year. Inland Rail, I'll deem red, but really what is interesting when you listen to Inland Rail in raw terms, seems to be a solution to a domestic rail freight problem, not a export or a problem. So nowhere in any of the conversations from the feds at this conference was a reference to what they do to the ports, be it Brisbane or Melbourne, to facilitate greater export capacity. All they were referring to is the investment in the rail sections along the inland route. So places like Marie and the likes are all getting on the bandwagon and doing the development, but in my mind, is it providing the ultimate solution to not just ship between Melbourne and regional centres and the big cities and Brisbane, but is it an export benefit? I'm not sure. I'm not going to elaborate on it, so I just sort of block that off and say, interesting how that's happening. Outback Way, and do they know how to sell the Outback Way with the general manager and the chairman? It is impressive to see the amount of money they're attracting to invest in that link, 2,700 kilometres east-west, Reef Rock and west. So they are attracting big dollars, and I think the reason why it's attractive is multiple states and multiple local government areas. So the feds love it. It makes them feel good about their
Can I interject again, please? On the Outback Way, when you look at it on the map, it goes to, where does it finish?
Love east or west,
When it finishes when the Outback Way actually finishes at Carlton, is it?
Oh, yeah. That side, Winton.
Winton? There's an arrow from there straight south. Doesn't have an arrow to the Capricorn Highway and Rocky Coast, and I think that's something that we should be able to have a talk to them about, because it's the continuation goes down the Matilda Highway instead of on the Cap Highway. We need to get on to that as well.
So yes, great to see how they are attracting funding to invest, more so than a lot of other lesser regional highways that we try to get funding for. The launch of National Road and Transport Policy Agenda. I've got a copy floating on here somewhere. Again, it's the push to get big investment in local government roads, really in a nutshell. I will admit that, yes, they're addressing all the key issues such as the demographic changes, technological transformation and market disruption, which is your electric vehicles, the freight task. You can't ignore the freight task. There was reference to the heavy vehicle reform happening, climate change, and obviously the big one is financing it all. So really, LGAQ is still pushing the funding bandwagon for roads. I don't know when they're going to meet, under which government, but we'll have to wait and see. We're heading towards the close of the conference and the board. And the board was the only party that turned up and talked, and as it is, they just took all the victories and the good stuff they've done, as if they in election mode. And he did take a leaf out of the Donald Trump book and said, together we can make Australia better or great. I'll leave that hanging. And yes, last middle of next year, Congress will be down in South Australia. I suspect there will be a few volunteers to go. And there was just a few snapshots of things that we got up to, extracurricular. An interesting one was about the caterpillar dreaming next to the Todd River that had its tail chopped off due to the construction of Bartlett Drive. I wonder if there's a Timber Creek compensation claims pending resulting in the damage to the caterpillar. But yeah, that was a bit of a summary of what went down in Alice Springs, Madam Chair.
Oh, thank you very much, Gerard. No, and it looked like it was a great conference, a lot of really good content there, and really appreciate the effort you put into capturing, so comprehensively, the themes of the conference.
I'd just like to move that the report be accepted, and I'd also like to that resolution that someone follows up about those tyres. I just think that we can't let that go, because the Western Shires were in favour of working with us to try and further that discussion, and I think that the Mayor's onto that. And I really think that if we just let that slide from the report, we'll never see it again. So I'd like to put in a resolution that we actually progress that.
Well, I'll get Gerard to think about
We put some
wording
wording around it.
We need to put some wording around that to make sure it's not lost.
Councillor, are you happy to move the?
And in our action plan, then it'll be there to follow through. So I just think that we just can't lose that thought.
So are you happy to move the departmental update for infrastructure and utilities, which includes that report?
Yep.
Move, councillor Neeson, second, councillor Roll, all in favour? Carried, thank you. And Gerard, do you have something there that you could put together?
I'll try to do a quick resolution, something along the lines, I don't think we can bind ourselves to delivering a
I'm
specific.
not saying deliver, but keep it on.
But what I'll do is,
So we bring it forward and progress it to a certain stage anyway, to talk to other communities, or just don't lose it, that's the main thing.
I'll look at casting words around engaging with agencies such as the Thai stewardship people, as well as regional councils.
You word it.
And the Regional Roads Transport Group,
Okay.
which is already happening.
So we can put that under general business, Lisa. We'll have that
You
resolution there.
happy that we put that resolution on the general business council?
Oh, wherever.
It's probably quicker putting it on the general business than trying to redraft
Just draft something up, thank you.
Yeah, all right, so move
Right.
councillor Nixon on that one as well. Seconded councillor Roll, all in favour? We trust Gerard on the wording there.
Okay.
Carried, thank you. Councillors, we have one item for closed session. And if I could just ask someone to move that we go into closed session, councillor Roll, seconded councillor. Well, have we got any other general business?
point of order, the general business.
Okay. No other general business? No, thank you. And